Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the RAAD Life. I have somebody very special to me on today, and he's an old veteran on this show, actually. I believe this is like his third time appearing, if not more. My good buddy, Joe Burke, as I refer to lovingly, my brother from another mother. And I think we were both separated at birth somewhere. I don't know where, but we'll delve into that in a minute. But the reason I love spending time with this guy. So whenever he actually allows me time in his busy schedule, we try to get together. And if this is the only way I get to talk to him, then this is the only way I get to talk to him. But you guys get to benefit from it too. There's something fascinating about Joe and about people who create things that kind of outlive them. Ironically, we were just touching on that a minute ago, right? And whether it's a product or a movement. I mean, I'm feeling that a little bit with what I'm doing with the RAAD Life platform right now. It's a shift in how people experience the world. Like we're touching people in a way in how they experience the world. We're tactile and emotional and in many ways. And maybe that wasn't the driving reason why we went down this path. But, what I've come to realize is this, that there's sometimes that when the thing you create eventually starts creating you. Not in the way people think, not in success or recognition, but in how it shapes your identity, maybe your relationships even, your sense of self, when the noise quiets down. So today's conversation isn't going to be only about invention, although we're going to definitely play, and I will tease with that word, about invention. But it's about what it costs sometimes, what it gives back, that's maybe unexpected, and who you become in the process. Because at some point, the question stops being, in my mind, what did you build? What did I build? And becomes, who are you now that it's built? And I love the fact that I've had Joe on, and it's been kind of part of this arc, actually, with the product, because here we are the third time on the air. And we actually have the ability to go back and look at that, right? Because we've kind of been on this journey with some touch points. So, Joe, welcome to the show, my friend, again.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
A little maybe deeper than you thought this was going to be, but we're going to have a lot of levity, you and I, we always do. So take me back, okay? Who was Joe Burke before OllyBall, which is what we're, basically the thing that you actually let me, if I remember correctly, you let me actually try it out when it was still like not a polished package or anything. I remember I said my nephew, is starting to play soccer, and I just want to basically, kind of fly in the face of my sister and my brother-in-law and give him something he can kick around in the house. And because the premise, okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about OllyBall for a split second, and then I want to know, like, who was Joe Burke before OllyBall, right? So let's talk about OllyBall, okay? Tell people about OllyBall so we can just get that out of the way for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, the short of it is I have the original right here. This is OllyBall. It is a Toy of the Year award-winning, now 12 national, international awards, indoor play ball with 2 U.S. utility patents for safe indoor play. You can hit as hard as you want in the house. It's guaranteed not to break windows or mark up your walls. And since we launched in 2019, we're closing in on 3 million OllyBalls sold worldwide. And we're kind of just beginning. You can get them at Target, Dick's Sporting Goods, Amazon, TikTok Shop, and thousands of toy stores across the country. But that's the short of it. We come with many different styles. This is our Planet Earth edition.
I knew you were going to play with the globe.
Yes. Our newest is our Keepy Uppy version. This one we just launched yesterday. It is our soccer version. So I can get more into the company, but the short of it is the ultimate indoor play ball. It is made from upcycled material, and its whole goal and the mission of the company is to bring joy to parents and kids.
And what was the inspiration for it? Because I think it was very personal, right? Like the inspiration behind why you even went down this path to try to develop it. And I remember you showing me something that had, like, you went through like tape and different textures and
That's
different
right.
materials, right?
Yeah, bottom line, I mean, and kind of just to touch on your original question, what I was beforehand, I
Yeah.
started out as a paper boy in Chicago. We moved, my dad worked in Manhattan and Chicago, so we moved a lot growing up, but I was a paper boy. It was the only way I could make money. And I took great intimate care with every customer on my route. I could probably do a small white paper on the platitudes of being a paper boy. But outside of that, I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to compete as a wrestler and to study at the Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. Upon graduation, the first thing I did was to get a card table and a metal chair and traded out work at the end of a hallway at a company and started building my own little empire. Fast forward, before OllyBall, I had taken jobs with Disney, Goodwill Industries, and I was at Christie's when I met you, Rad. And I guess a lot like that kid who had a paper out and built a company on a card table and a metal chair, I was, I think the world is full of resources, and the most powerful resource is intelligent people. I would say any person, but I find intelligence in so many ways in people. But it was
Yeah.
one of the reasons I showed it to you. We had met. There was something I understood about you immediately in terms of who you were in your mind, and I wanted to get it in front of you. I wanted to get your thoughts. I wanted to get your take because I know when you share things in front of a varied set of minds and intelligence that it only gets bigger and stronger. So that's what I was doing. I was continuing to test the world and take my little invention that I had created for my daughter to intelligent people. And then the third piece of that is, why did I create it? When my daughter was 8 years old, she was breaking everything in the house with a soccer ball and a volleyball. And, it was a Saturday afternoon in Orange County. I know the date actually. It was in June of 2014. And she was, only because I have pictures of it, she was breaking everything in the house. I threw the ball in the backyard and she started crying in the kitchen. And I was like, how come no one's made a ball that you can play with in the house? And so that day I said, you know what, let's make a ball that you can hit in the house and play volleyball with. So we went into the garage, got a balloon and some painter's tape, and we had figured out by the end of that Saturday the qualities, the weight. I knew it had to weigh less than an ounce. I knew certain things about it, but it didn't exist and it wouldn't stay inflated if it did exist. And that day touched off a quest, 100 different prototypes, 2 US patents, almost 3 million units later.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful story that literally was a spark because you had a pain point of broken items in the house, and you had a daughter that basically you loved enough to figure out some way to still have her play ball in the house. And I mean, I laughed. I remember as clear as day. And thank you, by the way, because you and I connected like this from the first minute. I mean, and we've been around long enough. There's enough grape in our beers that we've been around long enough. We know that does not happen all the time. It's like very like what I think we were talking like 1%, 2% of the time that you actually are encountering people, and when you do, you should trust it because a lot of
Yeah.
times it's like, well, I don't, I don't have the awareness. So I am very grateful, my friend, that you are in my life. I mean, and not only the joy and the fun and just the banter that we do, but the fact that you inspire me when I look at stuff like this, because you found joy in something that many people would have probably dismissed. Like they would have probably said, go play outside. Those guys. But you wanted to find a solution, something also you and I share in common. Problem solving is not just something we are good at. We actually, I think, enjoy and thrive doing, right? Building a better mousetrap, so to speak. But the thing with the ball, the minute you told me there's a ball that I can play indoors, my contrarian, healthy Gen X rebellion against authority with respect, it said, oh, so all the times I was told I could not do something, I now can do it down to kicking a ball inside the house. I'm in. What else can you tell me about this thing? And I remember I was at OC Talk Radio. You came in, we did that first interview on this thing. It wasn't even out there, like it was just starting to get some legs. And then boom, next thing you know, and then, during COVID, I think it was, or I think it might
Yeah,
have been during COVID, right? You came back on, and we kind of like checked in to see what was going on. And here we are again. And we'll leave some of the stuff that we're working on together here, like till the end, to tease people. But man, what a journey, right? I mean, and did you have any feeling that this would be the journey you would go on with, to get like, and I want some insight, like what has surprised you about this journey? Like what have you picked up along the way? Because this is play, this is
it
joy.
is. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that I didn't expect and I wasn't ready for. I knew I had it was a primary play function, which is, there's something primal about it, and you can hit this ball as hard as you want. And that was figuring that part out was just the beginning. What I wasn't prepared for and I didn't know was the cohorts of people that were going to find not only utility in it, but joy. And that is counseling centers, assisted living centers, parents with children in long-term hospitalization, and core memory. I got to tell you, I'll tell you two quick stories that will encapsulate the answer to the question here. I got a letter from someone who said I took this OllyBall that my kids love to see my dad who suffers from dementia, and he hasn't spoken in 2 years. The kids started playing OllyBall with him, just tossing it to him. His face lit up, and he spoke for the first time in 2 years. My theory is that there's neurons in the brain that were reactivated from childhood. And so we don't make claims of this, that, this is what our product does, but I wasn't ready for that. I didn't expect that as part of the journey. And then the second one, we have great partnerships. One of them is with FAO Schwarz in New York City. So when you walk
Yeah.
into FAO Schwarz in New York City, especially during the holidays, you'll see we have a 22-inch version, and it's the first thing you see when you walk in. Kids play. And I had a young gal came up to me. She goes, "Oh God, OllyBall! I had this when I was a kid." And I was looking at her like, oh, she must be confusing it as a different ball. And I asked her, I said, so are you sure it was an ollie? Because, oh yeah, it was an ollie ball. I'm like, I go, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? She goes, oh, I'm 19. I go to NYU. And I go, so you did have, she goes, oh, no, no, no. I know it was OllyBall. I had this when I was a kid. And I realized, because we started selling this when we first came out in 2019, that we've actually become a core memory for kids and for families, that, kids will remember this years from now. They'll say, oh God, you remember that ball we had, what was it called? The OllyBall. Like, we've become a core memory now, which again, I wasn't prepared for. And it wasn't the genesis of what we were doing. It had, of all the things I've done in my life, and I think many people do things for money, fame, recognition, or otherwise, or achievement. This was the one thing that was just purely done for the love of my daughter, so she would stop crying and could keep playing ball in the house. And I think because of that, and because of the pursuit of it, which was questioned so many times. I think it was $80,000 into patents and research and products and prototypes. And I remember I had a group of guys I used to run with in Orange County, and one of them would say, he goes, "What, are you trying to make a ball that doesn't bounce?" And I didn't listen to any of those voices. And I didn't listen to any of the voices other than my wife and people close to me like yourself. I didn't listen to those voices because I knew that if we could figure this out, I'd bring joy to my kid. And I knew already, because of the path I was on, that this was going to bring the same joy to other kids if we could figure this thing out.
And even if you touched that one person, your daughter, or like a handful of kids, and left them better than you found them, that would be a gift enough, right? I mean, all the other
Yep.
stuff is bonus. So I want to ask you, like, because before I do, let me share something with you. I had the same experience with my father. My father had dementia and Parkinson's. And I finished telling you that the man's life in the end was, he was basically being rolled out from bed and basically sitting at the dining room table with the TV on, caregivers 24/7. And, with Parkinson's, the dexterity stuff and so forth. The thing about that is a ball was a big deal. Like, to throw a ball to him was a big deal to do, right? But there's also something about, like, we tried like rubber balls and all this stuff, and they worked. But the fact your ball has also what I consider very unique characteristics of how it reacts. Like it's intuitive, but it's not like something that has different characteristics. Like if I brought a balloon, it's gonna interact differently. Your ball has you just kind of like pass on. Oh, it sort of mimics. It's not. I think volleyball has its own individuality, honestly, and I think you touched on that, and I didn't even connect the dots until you and I started talking about preparing for this episode. And yeah, there's not only is it generational in terms of people who maybe have limited mobility, but to your point just now, what you just said about the young lady that was basically sharing that she had it when she was a child. Okay, it's like me still owning my own original Game Boy. Okay, it's like me still having the comic books that I set aside. Still, like I still have my old LPs and 45s, right? And so you get older, not only is it and I don't think it's nostalgic. I think it's something that you enjoyed and it gave value to you added richness and value to your life that you appreciate, and you don't have a disposability mindset, and you still have it and you bring it along with you, right? And then you share it as part of the journey to somebody else, whether it's next generation or because my nephew is listening to music that you and I listen to, right? I mean, it's like so there's a warm fuzzy reward with that, and I love that fact for you. Like I love the fact that product, the OllyBall, I don't even want to call it a product. It's almost like a little, it's like the Wilson from from right. It has a character. So how do you feel? How does that sit with you emotionally? Like not professionally, but personally, like how does this sit with you? All this added stuff that's come out.
It's a great question because it comes down to a responsibility.
Mm,
We do things that I would never be allowed to do when I was at Disney. Um, we don't talk about it that often. We do it quietly. But there's decisions that we get to make when it comes to certain people, customers that contact us. My phone number's on every single OllyBall. We get people that call us. We get kids that call us. We'll have the craziest calls, but and we're able to do certain things in terms of the way that we guarantee the product, the way that we work with charities, nonprofits. I got the honor to go with a local group here to at Christmas time to the homes
mm,
of cancer survivors, people in need, kids in need, to deliver an OllyBall to their house at Christmas time. There's a responsibility that you have, and at Disney we called them the guest. They were never
mm,
called a customer, and I carry on that, that ethos. Every person we have is a guest. Our product is in their house. Something we created in our kitchen is in their kitchen. And so there's a great responsibility with that. And again, the lengths that we take and the things that we do, I would not have been allowed to do at large companies. It's not just that it wasn't against the rules. It's not even in the sphere of things that they do.
yeah,
So to answer your question, it is
yeah.
ultimately it's a responsibility because we realize that this is not just a ball. And there's a kind of tell you a quick side story. I've got a lot of good friends in the toy and consumer product space. And one night we were at in New York City with a group of them, and one of them said, they go, "Hey, isn't it just a ball?" And it gave me the idea to write an ad. And so we did an ad in a very Nike style way where it said, "It's just a ball." And we in fact did a radio spot called "It's Just a Ball," and it talks about all the different qualities of it. You can color it in with markers and crayons. It's upcycled. It's toy of the year. It's got 2 patents. It's safe for indoor play. It dampens the coefficient of restitution. And it's amazing when you talk about the qualities of it. No other ball exists like it. And specifically because I had to go through the process of the patents, which is a whole nother side conversation, is that, the patent examiner is going to look at every other pre-existing patent that has to do with a ball. And what's fascinating about this product is there are no elastomers. It's a ball, and we can't find another one out there that's ever existed that has no elastomers, meaning nothing about the ball is stretchy. There's no rubbery factors to it. It's not flexible. And in the 18 claims and embodiments that we have in the first and second continuation patent, and again, we show it to people sometimes, they'll say, oh, it's a red ball, and we'll say, oh, it's crunchy, and they're like, okay, I still don't understand it, I still don't get it. We'll say it weighs less than an ounce, I still don't understand it. Then they'll say, oh, it's filled with helium. We say, no, it's not filled with helium. You can, but it doesn't happen to. And they say, well, how long does it stay inflated? And I say, we've had one in the backyard for 6 years, it's still inflated. So you're right. And it's, in terms of, just to move in a little bit of the marketing realm,
Yeah.
that was the obstacle that we had to overcome when we first came out, and especially when we go into new markets and new countries, is people don't understand it. They say it's a ball in a box. They say, we'll sell it, we're at every US Target store, and we have, here in a box, and of course my kids are on it, and they'll say, I don't get it, a ball in a box. And without, we put QR codes, we put pictures, we put videos, and which helps, but until someone actually holds one, they won't understand it. And the retailers that we have that can actually demo and product, we have these toy stores that are, I don't know, 1,000, maybe 1,800 square feet, that are doing $40,000 to $50,000 a year in business just in OllyBall, because they have the ability for kids to hold it and play with it. Is exceptional. So the last thing I'll mention about it is the unique principle about it. And again, it was pursuing something that made no sense pursuing. A ball that doesn't, none of it made sense. And my daughter and I just wouldn't give up on it. We just kept doing it. I mean, there'll be a book written. My second book will likely be about we're going to build a ball, and but the pains of going through it, and even when we first went to market, my wife and I both left their jobs because we were getting blown up by all these retailers wanting the product. 3 months later, after we leave our jobs, COVID hits. And then that whole survival story is another miracle that further cemented, our responsibility to this product.
What happened during COVID?
Oh God, it was crazy. So I very amicably, great. In fact, you probably know him, Cameron Mirage, and I'm sure you know his brother Paul.
Yeah.
I was working for Cameron, who's an entrepreneur himself and an inspiration. He knew I'd been working on this. He knew I had the patents. Knew we won the awards, and he knew that I was eventually going to leave, which I did on very great terms. But 3 months later, and then my wife, she was a professor at Cal State Fullerton. She leaves her role there because we're so busy. We filled our garage up with product. I mean, our entire 3-car garage was filled with product. We had orders coming from all these retailers, all these toy stores, and we said, we can't pass up on this. We got one spin at this world, and if we pass on this, then we'll regret it for the rest of our life. So we didn't. And when COVID hit, we had product on the water, and that product was stuck. In fact, we were in Huntington Beach.
I remember this.
Yes.
I remember this because I asked you for some, and you said it's on those boats that you're seeing lined up to go to Long Beach.
At the beach. So here's kind of the miracle of it. While that product is sitting there, and Amazon had shut down all sales of product that was an essential product, I just, like, my best hours are between 10 and 1 in the morning is where I get most of my good thinking done. I just go, that there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. I'm like, no one's flying right now. That's an opportunity. I just kind of looked at it, took a piece of paper out. I'm like, here's the problem. Here's the opportunities. I'm like, what are the opportunities? And one big one was no one's flying. So then I looked into flying this stuff, which would cost a fortune. And we still couldn't sell it anywhere because toy stores were closed. 98% of our existing business up to that point was closed. The retailers, their product was sitting on the water. They couldn't get it. But Amazon was our way. Online sales and our own website was the way. So we took, just to give an example, this is a retail box. These are the things that were stuck in the water. And in 1 week, I redesigned all the packaging, same product, to that big. I got this thing down to 0.085 CBM, 1.3 ounces in the package. And I said, if we can fit 100 units in the size of a microwave oven, we can air freight these things because no one's flying right now. The air freight will be less expensive, which is what we did. We turned around all the packaging in a week's time, got a hold of the factory, who was great. I mean, I know him, I know his wife, his kid, and we said, let's go. Let's get into production. We got the new packaging done. We air freighted, and I petitioned Amazon saying that kids need active indoor play, active indoor recess. This is a missing thing right now.
You turned stay at home into a marketing.
That's kind of true. Yes, very true. And while our stuff was still on the water, we had our product back on Amazon and back on Shopify, and we were selling. And again, I think some people have said, God, it was so smart. I'm like, it's survival. It was just hardcore,
Of
and we
course, the
went through.
survival, dude. But people survive by bunker mentality, not necessarily growth mindset. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I like you. As much as you and I have a healthy ego, we both have a humbleness to it too. So I'm gonna brag for a minute, right? That was pretty awesome. Like you turned a situation, and I remember saying this during COVID myself. Like you, right now, you either have a bunker mindset or you have a growth mindset, right? Like you pick, and most people went bunker, and some people didn't, and then some of the people that had growth mindset then went back into the regular stuff after COVID and started doing the same crap that didn't work to begin with, right? But I got to
Mhm.
tell you, that is brilliant, and it's interesting because I don't know if you know this. And if anybody thinks this is not true, then correct me, please, because this is just how I know this, right? Do you know how bourbon came about?
I don't. I don't.
So what is bourbon made out of?
I think it's sour mash, isn't it?
Right, but
Like corn or
it's
mash or
crop.
something?
It's crop,
Crop.
right?
Yeah.
It's produce. It's crop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Crop volume wise, unprocessed, takes up a lot of space. When you distill it and put it in barrels, you can get more volume on a barge going down the Mississippi than if you basically put stuff on it. So you took something and you shrank it in order to get it into a storage component that then made it viable to actually ship. Right? It's actually friggin' brilliant. And the positive impact, not that necessarily maybe that was really what's driving it, because like you said, Survivor, that you have left on people. Like not only did you have kids that are now 19 play with this thing, right, during COVID, you actually they were captive. I mean, this is marketing, right? There's a captive audience, man. They were at home and they needed something to do, and the parents needed them to be doing something and they couldn't really go outside other than if they had a backyard. But if they're in an apartment, they can't really go outside. You had to keep your distance. So here's a ball that you can kick inside the house. It is really brilliant, Joe. I mean,
I appreciate it. Well, hey, listen, I mean, the reason I like doing podcasts or interviews or these things is it's not that I want to sit and talk about myself. I really want to impress upon your audience
yeah,
that no matter where you're at, employed, unemployed, retired, it doesn't matter. If you've got a simple idea, and especially if people think it's crazy, you're probably on the right track. Um, you can chip away at it every single day. And
yeah.
once you get to a level of commitment, and where you jump off the cliff and build a plane on the way down, at that point, it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to stop you. And be it COVID, be it the recent, we had counterfeits, we had port congestion, we had tariffs. I mean, everything we've been able, and
Just
you get
just
more
just
galvanized.
another day. It's
Yep,
just another
it
day.
is.
So
Yep.
let me ask you, because I'm getting a little vibe, and you kind of said it when you said responsibility. I think there's also probably a layer of stewardship that you feel now at this point, right? But you create something that took a life on a life of its own, so to speak, right? At what point did it stop feeling like it was yours, and how did that sit with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's strangely, I never felt like it was mine because sure, the patents are in my name and the pain there's been a lot of pain endured, but I did this for my daughter, and
Hmm.
it was out of love of a child. And I remember even early on, my wife Ellen, who just showed up,
Yeah.
and
Hi,
you
Ellen.
know, hey, she was sewing the original prototypes on a kitchen table. And again, it was this kind of blind pursuit that I was just not going to let go of. And so when to answer your question, when it becomes no longer yours is when you realize that it does have a life of its own. Our youngest son, Jameson, he's on this, that's him right
Yeah.
there. Him and I, one of our favorite things to do, because there's tens of thousands of reviews and comments, is we'll sit on the couch next to each other and we'll go through all the reviews and comments for two reasons. One, we want to learn more about the product. We get product ideas from our customers. Two, we want to understand who these people are. who is our customer, and we know our customer very, very well. We know what their interests are. So when it becomes no longer ours, it's because we've given ourselves to our guests, to our customers, because we're all ears at this point in terms of what they want, what they're looking for out of the product. And even with our latest one, we have this. This was finalist for Toy of the Year, which is our second STEM accredited OllyBall, where you color it in and they come with lesson plans written by PhDs. Again, we're reacting to what the world wants. So, in our 10-year roadmap that we wrote in 2020, it ends up as being the all-time best-selling play ball in history and leaving the world a better place than we found it. And, if you're heading for that pursuit, it becomes less about self and more about your community and what you can do for it.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I completely agree with that. I think if you leave one person better than you found them, that is a legacy worth living. And to find it through something like this that is so like limitless, really, honestly, right? Like, I mean, if you were to pick one item that would be like the hardest thing to reinvent, okay, it would be a ball, right? like if you sat down and for a moment try to rationalize, I'm gonna reinvent or reposition a product, right? One of the hardest things is something that's as common as a ball, right? But again, that's why I said when I think of volleyball, I don't think of it as a ball. I think of it as something that has its own personality and characteristics, right? It's Game Boy was not just an arcade console; it was its own thing, and and it has taken on a life of its own. Absolutely. Who are you? Well, before I go there, were there any costs other than, your sort of monetary and all this stuff? Were there any costs in this journey that you're comfortable sharing that maybe people don't know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you know this, Rad, I mean, if you're a founder, I mean, if you really built something from the ground up, I didn't have a rich uncle or, this company's been built on profits and our original 100+ thousand dollars of personal savings we put into it. Um, I'm going to answer your question in two ways. I turn the page quickly in life. The
Mhm.
pain that we've endured, the survival we've endured, the things that have happened, the mistakes that cost us $50,000. I mean, the things that happen are crushing and heartbreaking. But the one thing on the other side that I didn't want to let go of was spending like this. This has been a vehicle to share with my kids. And I'll give you the best example of that. Early on, I was helping my daughter. She's a softball player. We have three children. And my middle's a softball player, and she was taking pitching lessons. I mean, she was a little thing. And I was wearing a suit at the time, and I was sitting on a bucket, taking the pitches with the glove on, and she had her coach there. And I remember I had my suit on. I was coming from work, rushing to get there, didn't want to be late. And I had my phone next to me, which had my Amazon seller. We had just gone on Amazon. This was just before COVID started. And I remember putting it next to me like that. And I opened it up and anyone who's on Amazon seller, I'm sure you all have the same addiction. All day long, you're constantly watching sales and monitoring it and looking at analytics. I have it sitting next to me on a bucket and I'm taking pitches, hucking them back to her. And all of a sudden I ding, sale, ding, it was 8 sales in the time, which wasn't a lot of money. But I realized I could sit here on a bucket and work with my daughter on her pitching, and I'm making money at the same time. And I'm feeding my family and I'm feeding my soul. And that was so for all the pain that we've endured, there's no greater pain to have kept to endure was just to feed my family, which I've had some great jobs, which have been very nice. But I mean, I was doing it to feed my family. And the things I did to feed my soul were separate. Go on hikes, go fishing with my kids, and I've coached them all in sports. That feeds my soul. But to be able to do both was, I guess, worth all the pain and worth all the risk. So yeah, I mean, I could to get into specifics. I mean, look, there was times in the company where the first counterfeit that hurt so hard. I mean, the first counterfeit was so egregious, and they've tried to counterfeit us, using pictures of my own kids. They try to
Oh,
counterfeit us by
that's
making using the
really,
same
yeah,
box shape. And
yeah.
we're 4 for 4. We've knocked all of them out. I've got a great legal team, and especially when it comes to IP, you create something yourself. You put your heart and soul, your own money in it. It's a
Sure.
family member to you. You get incredibly vigilant about IP because they're stealing from your family. And
Yeah.
so we've had, again, I got such a great legal team. The key guy I met doing nonprofit work.
Hmm.
And to answer your question about a ball, inventing a ball, I went to him originally and I said, "Can you patent a ball?" And he goes, "It'd have to be a really special ball." And so I said,
He
and
didn't say no. He didn't say
he didn't
no.
say no.
You had the right guy. Yeah.
Exactly. I still work with him to this day. Shout out to Scott Hansen, another Orange County guy,
Yep.
who's been
So
a
I
vanguard. Yep.
so okay. Who are you on the day that nobody brings up what you created? I think you kind of answered it a little bit if anybody's been paying attention. But who's Joe Burke 2026? I can't even believe it's 2026, but who's Joe Burke 2026 when nobody brings up what you created?
Yeah, I think it's husband, father. I mean, if you look at the signature in my emails, it says founder, inventor, parent. And if there's one passion I have, and at the core of me is my wife and kids. Just is. I mean, they're the core of what I do. They are the driving force of everything I do, and they're kind of the driving force of the legacy that we want to leave as a family. And I love involving them in every piece of this. So that's who it is. And I guess if you want to get really an insight, and sup at the kernel of my soul, I'm probably that same paper boy in Chicago at 4:30 in the morning in the snow that made sure every person on my paper route got their paper. And I had some people on my paper route who had mobility issues, and I would open their screen door and put it in a certain thing. And I don't know, I'm probably that same guy.
I believe you. I see it, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah,
I
appreciate
think
it.
yeah, and yeah. I think it's important sometimes. We talk about the achievement and we talk about the self worth and all of that stuff. And identity is we're entrepreneurs. You and I basically thrive in circles. We can step up to the stage and put on the show, so to speak, right? And people love it, and there's an authenticity to it. It's not fake, but at the same time, there's that other layer. And sometimes along the way, that layer gets lost or it gets atrophied. So every time I see you, man, honestly, like not only is the energy infectious, right? It feels just right. So I wanted to make sure I brought that out on this interview because we'll talk about the product and we'll ham it up and we'll put on the show for people. You and I do that very well, but I wanted that to come out. So thank
Yeah, I
you for
appreciate
sharing that because it's I think it's worth really bringing that out. It's still the paper boy in Chicago that takes the extra effort to walk up to that person's house and the door in the snow when they couldn't basically get up there to get the paper because there was something foundational about you that's still there. And so thank you. I really appreciate you, my friend. My life is richer for you in it, honestly.
it. And vice versa. Agreed, Rad.
Thank you.
And don't forget, I have something to share at the end of the interview.
Oh no. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me ask you this because I think this is something I'm dealing with right now too. Do you feel a sense? I think the answer is I already know I think I know the answer, but do you feel a sense of pride that this is really a legacy, that this is a living legacy? You're getting to live the legacy, not where they look back and go, oh, this is the Joe Burke's legacy, but you're actually getting to live this legacy on a daily basis. Like you said, your number is on every ball, right? You're hearing from every person, which is you're getting also the input on what to do next with it, maybe what people are looking for, ideas. That's how they germinate. But is there a layer of legacy to this for you?
Yeah, I would say so. And, with a number of things that I've been involved with and done, you do think about that. I like with everything, just to go back even to my corporate days. I mean, I was kind of I enjoyed the jobs. I did, but I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, it was very hard for me in ways to exist in a corporate environment. People went home at 5 o'clock, which was foreign to me. It didn't make sense.
Hmm.
And again, not to put a value judgment on that. It's just, it was very odd for me, but I'm glad I did. I met great people. There were great experiences and I learned a lot and I built my network even further, which has helped me. Um, but, in terms of legacy, you know, it's in the book I wrote. You know,
Which let's mention the book for a minute because I think it's a
yeah.
great book. And can people still get it?
Oh yeah, it's on Amazon. It's still got 5 stars.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised, but what can you give people the name of the book? Because I love that. I mean, that was another layer to you. I'm a big fan of history. And I really love. I grew up with my dad on mythology and history and
Yes.
all of that stuff. I grew up in different countries. You were a citizen of the world, whether you liked it or not, by virtue
Yeah.
of happenstance,
Yeah.
and you basically picked a direction that was really resonated with me about hero's journey and archetypes and the journey archetypes and the parallels, how you brought that in as a parallel with, people don't realize how often that is used actually in the presentation of stories for them, right? So what is the name of the book?
I'm going to kill two birds with one stone for you. So this is it. It's the Anatomy of Yes. And in the Anatomy of Yes, the premise is that there is 5 distinct archetypes that everybody goes through their entire life, from the moment you're born, which is a quest for identity, to
Yeah.
your legacy, which is your quest for the Holy Grail. And to answer your question about legacy, yeah, I do believe your legacy is built in the 4th archetype, which is restoration of the wasteland.
Mhm.
Restoration of the wasteland is, how do you fix things in people? How do you take all the things that you learned in your life, all the dragons you've slayed, all the lessons that you learn, all the descents to the underworld? How do you use that to make the world a better place, to fix things in people? So legacy, yeah, I mean, the very nature of OllyBall and the product is to fix a problem, because not only can kids play ball in the house, it gets parents and kids off electronics. It helps grandparents with mobility issues to play with their grandkids. We have a whole line of sports products for full indoors where kids as young as 3 years old can start learning baseball, volleyball, and
Yeah.
basketball. So yes, the legacy and the 10-year plan in kind of everything that I kind of pursue, I always try to think 100 years out, not just in terms of what legacy will this leave for me, but what am I teaching my own kids? How are they learning the company? How are they watching me? And how are they going to assimilate that information into their dragon and treasure, their quest for identity, their restorations of the wasteland, and how are that's going to translate to their grandkids? And it's all based, I mean, I had these ideas existed with me in high school when I had a teacher who first taught me about archetypal patterns. I realize that everything we do is another word, letter, or chapter in this storyline that we are all living. And every single one of those storylines is going to have crisis, conflict, and resolution, and it's going to end up as a legacy. And so, and there's nothing, I don't find pride in it. I just find more fascination, curiosity, and joy in it.
Well, and I think there's a trust, right? There's a trust of it.
Correct.
Yeah, there's an acceptance of the fact that the ambiguity and the uncertainty and the not knowing is part of what that is. It's part of that going through the forge, coming back, returning a home, so to speak, to use a Joseph Campbell approach, but with
Yep.
the flame, you bring back the flame, right? So there's a lot of that. Okay, so I'm gonna we've known each other long enough. What archetype do you think you're in that 4th archetype?
I would say, yeah, I'm in restoration of the wasteland, which is why we've been doing so much work with charities. We're starting our own foundation. Everything I do now, we just did an event, a pretty big event this past weekend, and we brought in Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And I look for that in everything we do. How do we take something simple that we know brings parents and kids closer together and gets kids off electronics? How do we do that and get more altruistic about it? How do we expand the circle on it? So, Yeah, I'm definitely, I've slayed enough dragons, taken enough arrows. I've had enough descents into the underworld. I'm sure more are coming, but at this point, you sort of get, battle toughened from it all. You take so many body blows and you get cut out the ankles enough.
So
You
true.
realize that basically life is unfair, and business is even more unfair. And when you accept that and go, all right, well, that's just it. I mean, the body blows are going to keep coming. None of this is going to change. So how do I, in the face of that, how do I focus when I'm suffering? I think that's kind of the if there's a secret to life or anything that I have shared with young people that I mentor is that you're going to suffer no matter what in life. I don't know any other way around it.
But
You're
I
going to
think,
suffer.
I think if we like, look, we're both fans of language, right? I mean, language has impact. So the word and the meaning, just because the word means suffer, doesn't, like, just uncertainty. Uncertainty could be like completely wrecking, like it could be completely destabilizing, or it could be, hey, I remember being a kid, and when I was a kid, I woke up in the morning, didn't know what the day was going to bring, and I was kind of excited about it. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you frame this, right? So suffering, I got to tell you, once you get your head in a space where you stop looking at life through whatever prism you want to look at it, but actually, or what society is trying to package for you, but you look at it from the filter of reality. And you start basically realizing that your sovereignty and your self authorship will pretty much guide you through anything. If you can get that muscle strengthened enough in the face of the naysayers, in the face of whatever comes your way, the fact that life actually has uncertainty and has challenges is exhilarating.
It's yep.
It's actually ground for being challenged. Again, I'm not talking about go throw yourself off a cliff without any kind of like safety net, right? But I mean, like, there is an aspect to this, and maybe I'm just twisted that way now at this point in my life. God knows what archetype I'm in at this point, right? But it's I think there is something to be said about reframing that. And I'll share with you a very quick story about what just happened on a panel, interesting enough, at Cal State Fullerton. I had two guys that were AI guys next to me. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about. These are students that are basically scared to death about what AI is going to do to them in terms of job prospects or whatever it is that, they're looking forward to. Hey, I just spent all my time and my money to get this degree, and this machine is going to basically now deny me the ability to get the job. So I'm going to have to go work somewhere, menial. The whole conversation, the minute we start talking about sovereignty and self-authorship and differentiation versus just trying to basically be in that thing, and the challenges and how they shape you, whether it's Oedipus, the Odyssey, right? Or it's anything, Icarus. I mean, I hate the fact that Icarus's story is about the fact that how this boy had the hubris to listen to his older father, and basically flew too close to the sun. And the moral of the story is that you should never do that. Like, what about the fact that he friggin' dared to climb to new heights, right?
True.
Right? I mean,
It's a good point.
let's reframe things in a manner that's a little bit more empowering. But I think legacy is a big part of who you've always been, man. I mean, that from the day that you were on that bicycle delivering newspapers, you had a legacy in how you interacted with the people. I love the fact that's a constant thread with you, and it absolutely resonates with me. And there have been times when I've kind of lost connection with that, and then having people like you in my life and watching from afar, if we're not communicating, directly, has been actually really rewarding, and it reminded me that reclaiming those things are super important for
Yeah,
each and
spot
every one
on.
of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, and you and I have always, I do believe that there's, I don't know, frequencies, that people
Hmm.
operate on. And, when people start, like, you ever been in a room and all of a sudden you get the sense that someone's in the room, that's a frequency. I think there's so many frequencies that exist between people that are
Yeah.
unseen and unheard.
Yeah.
And I think, and with you, it's true. There's certain people, very few people I've met, but when you meet them the first time, you realize that they're operating on that same tuning fork, that same frequency, which is a combination of awareness, uh, thought, and response. And yeah, you're one of them guys.
Well, so are you, my friend. I really mean it when, it's tongue in cheek about brother from another mother, but seriously, I don't have a brother. I have a sister that I love dearly. If I had to choose, you're it. So like it or not, you've been adopted now. I think,
I
I think,
appreciate it.
I think you already knew that though. So, I want to just talk about a couple of things that we're also working on because I think I'm super excited about this. Honestly, like I get to play with you, whether directly or indirectly. I get to play with you because, and you said something to me before the show, and if you're serious about it, I'm in, right? About being involved on that side of things. But
Yeah.
I actually we're working together. I actually reached out to Joe and I said, look, I'm putting this retreat together. It's immersive. It's basically I'm inviting a whole bunch of older people to basically come and play and indulge and for about 6 or 8 hours in the day. And I want them to be able to play ball. I want some volleyballs, right? So we were working on that, and then immediately within like 2 seconds, I'm like, well, wait a minute. The RAAD Life basically it stands for all this stuff that you basically have been putting together. I want a pride of basically putting the golden R on the friggin', it's not a white swoosh, but it's a golden R on the friggin' OllyBall. And so we're working on actually, Joe's been gracious enough to say that we can work on getting an OllyBall out and tying it in with the RAAD Life. And I can't wait for what else we can work together on, man. It's that call. When I got off that call, I was done for the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I'll give you a little. I think I told you this. I think the second time I was on, and we're going to do this with the RAAD Life ball. So, there's everything we do, not everything, but most things we do is with intention. And when I designed the original Ollie ball, I had finished my book about a year earlier, and we were talking about the images. And I decided, listen, there's 5 archetypes. Why don't I
Archetypes.
take,
Yeah.
yeah, 3 archetypes. So on the original all-time best-selling Ollie ball, which if you look close, I started coloring this one in. You can
Yeah.
color them in with
Yeah.
markers and crayons. Each one of these panels is one of the archetypes of it. So this one, which has superheroes on it, a
Yeah.
mask,
Yeah.
is the quest for identity. And that's where the book is unwritten. And
Love it.
that's where, and then the bugs, each one of my kids is represented. So a lot of our Ollie balls will have 3 bugs. That's for each one of my kids. This one is this is dragon and treasure. So
Yeah.
you see the dragon, and the knight here has a sword with a pencil, and then there's music, and this is where there's the treasure. And so dragon treasure, which is the second archetype, and then I have this one, which is the quest for the Holy Grail, which is our legacy. And
Yeah.
so you have the earth, the planets, and then as you go all the way to the bottom, this is where we end
Get
up in life,
rooted in the
rooted
soil.
in the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah.
And then that Stegosaurus is one of my favorites. Very early on in the company, the good fortune of working with a guy named Gary Pember, and his son is on the autism spectrum and loves Stegosauruses. So I said, we're going to put a Stegosaurus on there for your son. So, we like to involve a lot of meaning in what we do. And with the RAAD Life ball, we're going to do the same thing.
I'm
We'll put the
leaving it
golden
up to
R
you,
and some
man.
meaning.
I told you, I'm leaving it up to you. The one thing though, I will ask you, because it will be meaningful for me, is that there's something on there that has you in it.
Fair enough.
Okay, because you are definitely part of my world, and I really want this to be something that whenever I look at it is going to give me a smile, even if I don't know has a friggin' clue what the hell I'm laughing at or smiling at, right? Because I want this thing to outlive you and me. You're building a platform of play. I'm building a platform that the biggest reward for me would be that it is something that outlives me and goes and gets bigger every minute. If that happens, I'm thrilled.
Well, I got to bring this up. So last time I saw Rad, we were in Orange County.
I love the outfit change, by the way.
Well, I'm doing this for you. And we were sitting there, and And I had done this for some certain people. I remember I had a set of cufflinks from Pierce Brosnan. This was a whole separate life when I used to do movies, and I had given this set of cufflinks to a friend of mine who was supposed to pass them on and
You're
didn't.
hilarious.
But last time I saw Rad, I think it was in Newport Beach, and the
It
last thing
was.
is I said something about your jacket, and you gave it to me, and here it is. I'll even pop the collars.
Oh, now you're generational right there.
There we go.
Well, you know what? Looks good on you, man. You should bring it over when you come over.
I will. It will travel with me.
I love that. No, it wasn't even a question, man. It was like, look, I know you don't have access to my closet, and you said you like this. I will find as much joy in the fact that you're wearing it as I would be wearing it myself. So
see, again, yes, this is the ethos.
yes, my friend, I really, really, I love you to death, man, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I do want a date from you for when I'm going to come see you in Boise.
Yes, it's
Okay.
coming, and I've got some people for you to meet and some adventures for
Yeah,
us to go on.
let's have some fun, man. Where we are in life, and you're right. You know, like this fourth archetype. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I feel like at least I'm entering into that. And I think the frequency is very important. I mean, there are times when you just connect with people like you and I did. I was on a weekend. I was on a weekend in Napa just last weekend, right? And when you feel it, you feel it. And I tell people the biggest gift that I feel I have been blessed with at this point in my life is being able to recognize that moment closer to the source of when it happens, then look back 2 weeks later and go, you know what, that was an interesting serendipity that happened. If I am able, for whatever, by grace of God, to basically be able to feel that moment of big bang connection frequency, and it's not noisy, it's not loud usually, right? It just feels right. It resonates, right? And then as time evolves, it just continues to build on that. If you can feel that closer to the moment of inception, for me, that is one of the biggest gifts that I can be given. And when I have it, it happened with you. It happened last weekend with a couple of people. They're not brothers from another mother, though. That role is solely
cousins.
yours.
Cousins.
They're cousins. I might introduce you to them. They're cousins, maybe.
Yes.
But I appreciate you, my friend, for taking the time. I know we had a little bit of issues with the podcast at the beginning with technical. So I want to end with this for people who are listening. First of all, thank you for joining us on the RAAD Life. I really enjoy doing this. It really is I feel blessed to be able to sit down with people like Joe and have a chance to talk to them. And yeah, I know it's long format, but you know what? You can stop listening anytime you don't want to listen, right? But for me, this is a visit. I'm visiting with my brother, and dude, I feel like you're in the room. Honestly, I mean, I know you're in Boise, and I feel like you're in the room.
Yeah.
So there's a quiet truth in conversations like this, really, for me.
Yep.
Okay, we spend so much of our lives focused on what we're building, in being human doing, not human being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the thing, the business, the idea, the legacy. But somewhere along the way, if we're paying attention, we realize that the real work isn't the creation necessarily, or the productive, as society may want to term it. We realize that it's the transformation. Because the thing we build eventually stands on its own. It's standing on its own. I mean, it's bouncing on its own in your case, right? But who we become in the process, that's the part that really is the reward and what we carry forward. And maybe that's the real legacy, not the thing people use, but the life you've lived while creating it.
You know what? It's phenomenal. And I will bookend that with a quote from somebody who couldn't see, smell, or taste, which was Helen Keller.
Yep.
And which is, life is a dangerous adventure or nothing. And I think that's very true, no matter where you find yourself, in what situation, what stretch of the world you're in. I do believe that. And I think the biggest mistake I see people make is not taking that step, And the last thing, I took my daughter to college. By the way, the girl I built this for, my oldest daughter, so she could play volleyball in the house, played volleyball in the house pretty much every day with her volleyball before school and after school. She broke 3 all-time records at her high school and earned a full ride scholarship to play college volleyball, which is what she's doing now. Um,
Wonderful.
but if you think about that, life is a dangerous adventure or it is nothing. And when I left her at college and I brought her, I took a marker and in her dorm, right on her mirror, I wrote 2 Latin words: sine metu, SINE, the second word metu, METU, which is Latin for without fear. And it also appears on every bottle of Jameson whiskey, but that's an ancillary benefit.
I knew I liked you for a reason. I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here actually laughing a little, right? Because this is the dynamic. Anybody who knows us, has spent any time with us, this is the dynamic that happens, right? There's one man in the world that I am absolutely not only okay with, but look forward to having the last word.
I remember the first interview. You said you handed me the mantle of most interesting man alive, and I said we will share it. And to that,
Have we shared it well, my friend?
We
What do you
have.
think?
We've done a
All
great
right.
job with that.
And we're just getting started. So
Correct.
I appreciate you, Joe. I really look forward to seeing you, whether it's in Boise or here, man, whatever comes first. And thank you for first and foremost being a really awesome guy, being an unbelievable loved friend and a brother. And thank you for being on the show.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for the jacket. You will never get it back.
Shit. That's a good thing. I have another one in my closet. No, but I didn't get the exact same one. I wouldn't want to outshine that. You look so great in that, man. I'm so glad that you still have it.
I'm going to rock this all day here in Idaho. They're going to wonder where I came from.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I really enjoy these. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. I feel like I'm getting away with murder, basically trying to get, having these shows, especially when I have somebody like Joe on. And I hope you join us for the next episode of the RAAD Life. If you're interested in more of these episodes, you can find the link right on our newly launched website, media platform under theradlife.com. And that's THERAADLIFE.com. Drop me a note. Let me know what you think. Don't spare my feelings. If you think I speak too much, well, I might, you can share with it. What I will do with it or not do with it, that's up to me. That's your sovereignty right there, right? But I will really look forward to getting comments from you, seriously. And if you have any interest in basically maybe submitting an article to the RAAD Life to be posted, we're always looking for that. You always have the freedom always to design your life on your own terms, especially at a certain point in your life where you're in archetype number 4 or you're approaching that. So have the courage to buy that ticket to the life. Repeat that quote for me again from Helen Keller. I really want to remember it.
Life is a dangerous adventure or nothing.
That's the last word, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. See you later, Joe.